Hello, folks. My name is Nanika Edwards. I am a poet, artist, author, educator, and linguist from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. It's an unusually rainy morning, so the audio may pick up the sound of the precipitation, but I hope that you can still enjoy and benefit from this video. Today, I'm going to be sharing 10 books that I recommend heading into the new year. And the books that I am recommending come from a special library. The name of the library is the Bible. The Bible isn't just a book, but a collection of books. There are 66 books in all in the Bible, and I would like to recommend 10 of them for you. And for those of you who are dubious about the value of biblical teaching or the practicality of biblical philosophy, I'd like to just let you know that the Bible is the best selling book of all time, and that's for good reason. So I hope that you'll give my suggestions a fair shake. Before I get into my list of 10 books, first up, I would like to let you know the Bible can be a pretty meaty book, even though the language is pretty simple. So you may want to buy a Bible if this is something that you feel you'd like to explore in a really serious way. I have a chronological life application study Bible that combines life application notes with study notes about history, geography, culture, all kinds of different things. And it's chronological. So the books are all in chronological sequence, which you don't tend to get with typical Bibles. I love this Bible. It's my favorite Bible of all time, and I definitely recommend it. It is available on Amazon as far as I know. Okay, now, so you may want to buy a Bible. You may want to use an online Bible collection like Bible Gateway, where you can freely access different versions, different translations of the Bible, not only in English, but in Spanish and many other languages. You may want to download a Bible. In my case, on my phone, I have YouVersion and I also have CBN Bible. I like them both, but I definitely like CBN Bible because it includes a concordance. So I can look into the original Greek and the original Hebrew. Not that translations are bad, but if you go back to the original language of the ancient Hebrew or the ancient Greek, then you get the language in its purest form. Finally, in exploring these different books of the Bible, these 10 books that I'm going to recommend, or any other books that you choose to look at, you may want to also view some videos. For example, there are lots on YouTube that explain in depth and from a scholarly perspective or from a life seasoned perspective, the principles of the Bible. So that's what I would recommend. Anyways, let's get into the list. Number one, the book of Proverbs. This is a book that I would recommend as as the top book to read in the Bible if you've never read the Bible before. It's very practical. It's a life manual. It teaches you how to survive and thrive in the jungle called life. In this book, you will find principles that they should typically teach in school, but that were not taught. So the book of Proverbs will teach you about financial literacy, about your sex life, alcoholism, about the pros and cons of diligence versus being lazy, all kinds of different types of relationships, about marriage, all kinds of different things you will learn in the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs is a book that teaches you that life is essentially about choosing between two different paths. One of them, on a certain level, one of them would be folly and the other wisdom. And every time we have to make a significant choice, we're usually choosing between those two, folly or wisdom. So the book of Proverbs is a great book to look at. Number two, Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is a book that disrobes life, if I could put it like that. It's a book that removes all of the outer layers of life and helps you to get to the essence of what life is about and also what life is essentially like. So, what Ecclesiastes is the observations of a wise man, King Solomon, most likely, most people believe, most scholars believe, who tells you about the things he's observed in life from his vantage point of being a king and of being a wise person. It's like a book of street smarts, just like the book of Proverbs, but it's a little different because it teaches you that life is not always fair. And it teaches you that life is tricky and life can be complicated. I always say life is not fair, but God is always just. So, you got that balance. But anyway, the book of Ecclesiastes, I definitely recommend. Number 3, the book of Psalms, because the book of Psalms is a great book that teaches us how to express our emotions and how to benefit from the comfort, the encouragement that we can find in these beautiful poems that are really songs. And these pieces of writing can be a real source of encouragement and inspiration. Number 4, the book of Daniel. Daniel was a real person, a real historical figure. It paints a picture of a man within the empire of Babylon, and we see somebody in a professional context at a high level and how he maneuvers and how he navigates all of the different ins and outs of being in the position that he was in. So, the book of Daniel is a great book. If you'd really like to navigate even a minefield that you may find yourself in the workplace. Number 5, the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is a love story. I recommend this book because, at least within the context of somebody in the work world, because Ruth is a book in which we see a woman who is financially unstable falling in love with a wealthy business owner. No, women out there, I'm not saying that a man should be your financial plan. That's not what I'm saying. But the beauty of this book is that we see a woman with minimal means making the best of what she has for a certain period of time and for a certain season of her life. And we also see the generosity of a wealthy business owner and how the way in which they make the best of what they have, one having little and one having much, how it paints this beautiful picture and how in the end it ends well for both of them. Number 6, the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis is also another great book to look at as we head into 2025 and we think about how we want to position ourselves in the workspace, because first of all, across the book of Genesis, we see people in their own professional context as it applied at that particular time in ancient times. Also, in the first 3 books of Genesis, we see very clearly the reason why God created people, the purpose for which he designed the human race. And as someone in the workplace, especially the work sphere, professional life being so core to who we are as people, it's important to understand why we were created and to approach what we do on a daily basis in the workspace with a sense of direction, with a sense of purpose, with a sense of I matter in this world, okay? Because a lot of people in this life are very unhappy because they have no sense of purpose, right? A lot of people, if you check to see why they are so desperately discontented, a lot of times it's because, not always, but a lot of times it's because as people, we don't have a sense of purpose. At the end of the very first book of Genesis, God explains very clearly why he created people. So you can definitely check out the book of Genesis. And on the very opposite end, almost like maybe a bookend in a sense, the opposite end of the Bible, we have the book of Revelation. I definitely recommend this book because an important part of being a professional person is forward planning. It's futuristic projections and things like that. So the book of Revelation is a book that paints a very clear picture of what we can expect in these times. The times that we are in right now are considered end times, the end of time. So the book of Revelation is a really important book to read. I've looked at it at least maybe twice this year, and I plan on looking at it again. And by the way, in the book of Revelation, when we see what's going to be happening in the next maybe decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, what's going to be unfolding, it's going to help you to plan for this life and also for eternity. So that's crucial. It's the final book of the Bible, and that's where we are on the historical map for humanity. Number 8, the other book that I would recommend is The Song of Songs. Why The Song of Songs? What does that have to do with work? Well, it has everything to do with work, because we know if our home environment is healthy and happy, when we go to work, we can perform a lot better. The Song of Songs is like a marital manual. It's also an erotic manual, some people believe. And if you apply the principles that are promoted and endorsed in this book, you can build a really happy marriage. And well, happy at home, happier at work, right? Most likely in most instances. So I definitely recommend The Song of Songs, the most romantic book in the Bible, and perhaps one of the most romantic books of all time. Number 9, so that was number 8, Song of Songs. Number 9, the book of Job. I recommend the book of Job because it's a book that helps us to wrestle with human suffering. It's something that really makes a lot of us scratch our heads. We don't understand, why am I suffering? Why are they suffering? Why does God allow this? Things like that. I think that the book of Job is an important book to study as somebody working in an office or a company, or as an entrepreneur or things like that, because what the book of Job teaches us is that life is undulating in a sense. You have crests and you have troughs. So the book of Job also helps us to understand what may be going behind the scenes in the spiritual or unseen realm when things are happening in our lives, almost seeming to spiral out of control and beyond our best efforts to keep them to keep the chaos constrained. The book of Job helps us to understand the potential reasons why those things could be happening, and knowing the why can really help us to feel a bit comforted, even if our circumstances take a while to change. Oh, by the way, one thing I forgot to say about the book of Job is that Job the Bible says he was the wealthiest man in the East. So Job was a businessman. So one of the things that I like about Job, and being able to suggest this as a book that you can look at heading into 2025, is that Job was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. And we see that he wasn't always on top of the world. His world came crashing down through no fault of his own, right? The book of Job is a really good book, I think, to help us center ourselves as entrepreneurs or business people, or, like I said, professionals, especially when things are not going the way that we would like. The final set of readings that I would recommend for you to read from the Bible, this is number 10, would be the parables of Jesus. Of course, this is not an actual book. The first 9 recommendations were actual books, and all of them came from the Old Testament. But the parables of Jesus are in the New Testament. I definitely recommend them. If you want to be laser focused about the world of work, I would recommend the parables that deal with things like, like the parable of the talents, or the parable of the shrewd employee who was fired and how he handled that. All of these different parables I would recommend. And there are quite a few that deal specifically with the world of work. So that's it. Those are my recommendations. So that's it. I hope that this was helpful, and I want to take this opportunity to wish you the very best for the new year. I hope that 2025 will be very kind to you, and that you will thrive, prosper, and do exceedingly well. Until the next time.